Hello everyone. Continuing with our discussion about future tenses, we're going to talk about the use of will and how do we use it to talk about promises and offerings. There is a substantial difference between using going to and will. Mostly we use will, to talk about things we want, and that's why we use it not to plan things ahead, but we use it from here rather from here. The best example I have is from the movie Taken, when Liam Neeson says, "I will find you and I will kill you." You see, it's a very short phrase. This is not a plan. This is a promise. He's on the phone talking to the man who holds his daughter, hostage, and he's making a promise. I will find you and I will kill you. But how does he do it? How does he accomplish that? Well, then he starts planning, but the whole story starts with a promise. Right now we're going to explain how to use the modal verb to construct phrases. Let's talk about the structure for a second. I will work. Will is the auxiliary verb on the sentence. So we use a subject, we use the auxiliary verb, and then we use an action, a verb, an infinitive, if you want to call it that. Now, pay attention to this. I will work. Essentially, it's a phrase which takes place in the future. But when? Yeah, this is the thing. This is non-specific. It could be in 5 minutes, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. So we don't use it for plans. And for plans, we're going to resort to going to. I'm going to work tomorrow. So that's a plan. It's on the calendar. It has a date. I'm going to work next week. I will work. It functions as a promise, as an offering. And that's why when you volunteer for something, you say, I will do it, or I will go, I will help you. That's volunteerism. So you're making a promise in a way. So that's why we use will for promises and offerings. Let's take a look at the negative phrase now. When we use will plus not, the contraction is won't. And I'm going to insist a little bit on the pronunciation. This is O, won't. Because we don't want it to sound like want. Which is a fairly similar word, but we need to insist and that the pronunciation is different. So let's make an example. I won't work means I will not work. But if you say I want work, it means that you are looking for a job in a way. So careful with this. Let's take a look at the negative phrase here. I won't let you go there. Essentially, this is I will not let you go there. So it acts as a prohibition. And you are manifesting the fact of wanting to stop someone from doing something. Now, let's take a look at the question. Will you help me? Now, will you help me? Essentially, you're asking for help. You're begging for help. Like, please, will you help me? So you're requesting help. And that's why we use will in a different way than going to. We're going to take a look at a few examples to show you more about this. One of the good things about using will to talk about promises or offerings is that we can make a useful contraction. So this is shorter on the mouth and you can speak about making promises and offerings. I'm going to insist into that in a very short and concise way. For example, the phone rings. I'll get it, I'll, instead of I will. So it's very short and it comes instinctively from inside. Or somebody's knocking on the door. I'll open the door. So between formulating the idea and expressing the thought, this is very short, it's very effective. So let's talk about it a little bit, shall we? I will becomes I'll. You will, you'll. He will, he'll, she will, she'll. So look for the L in the pronunciation. He'll, she'll, okay? It will, it'll. It sounds a lot like Italy, okay? So it's not so difficult, but this one needs practice. In some places it will be something like this, it'll, like with a D between the E and the L sound, okay? So it can be it'll or it'll. We will, the contraction is will. So the sound is fairly similar as the one from the verb alone, okay? Careful with that. Will work is not just will work, is we as a group will work together, okay? And last but not least, they will, they'll. Essentially, we can summarize all this by saying that we pronounce an L after the subject, and then we're speaking about future promises or offerings immediately. I'll do it. I'll get it. I'll open the door. I'll help you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about shall. Okay, shall is fairly similar to will, but you can still see it in some contracts when you want to talk about future obligations as a future form of must, if you want to put it like that, or in UK movies. Well, the most typical example is from Lord of the Rings, when you saw Gandalf on the bridge saying, "You shall not pass." And everybody was like, nah, shall. Well, it has to be something like will, right? Essentially, it's kind of the same thing. And if you use a contraction like I'll, it could be interpreted as I shall too, okay? But it's not really common in modern English, particularly in American English. They only use it probably to make jokes or to sound more formal. But it can still be used in constructing some questions, especially when you're waiting for an authorization for something. For example, shall I open the door for you? In this case, in modern English, we would probably use should. Should I open the door? Or should we go? Okay, instead of shall we go? Okay, so it's very common to use it in first person, whether if it's first person singular or first person plural, like shall we or shall I? Okay, instead of saying you shall, which sounds more like an instruction or an order coming from high above. That's shall for you. There you go. Okay, let's recap about some things. We're going to use will to talk about promises, offerings. We talk about volunteerism as well. So, to volunteer. It's very common to be in a meeting and somebody says, we need someone to be here early tomorrow. And if you feel like it, you can say, I'll do it. So you're being a volunteer. You're making an offering using will by saying I'll. Okay? Practice the contractions. Okay? I'll, you'll, he'll, she'll, it'll, an alternative pronunciation, will, they'll. Okay? This is going to save you time and it's going to make it more instinctive to promise something or to offer something, like I'll help you, I'll open the door for you, I'll help you carry those boxes to your car. The idea here, again, promises and offerings. Remember that when you say I'll work, it's not specific about at which hour or which day or when you are going to work in that particular subject. All right? So practice, repeat, and learn. And that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of everyone here at Smooth Talkers, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.